The small house on Maple Street wasn't much to look at from the outside, but to the woman who lived there, it was everything. After working double shifts at the local diner for 15 years, she had finally saved enough to call a place her own. Her friends called her Sunny, not her real name, but one that matched her outlook on life despite its many challenges. Sunny's favorite spot was her backyard. It wasn't big or fancy, just a patch of green with a small wooden deck where she placed a comfortable chair and a tiny table. Every morning, rain or shine, she would sit there with her coffee, watching the birds and listening to the world wake up. Along the fence line, she had planted tomatoes, peppers, and herbs, nothing complicated, just the basics that brought her joy when they sprouted and later provided fresh ingredients for her simple meals. Not bad for a woman who started with nothing, she often thought to herself, running her fingers through the soil of her garden beds. The calluses on her hands told the story of hard work, years of carrying heavy trays, scrubbing tables, and saving every extra penny. Her husband had passed away 5 years ago after a short, brutal battle with cancer, leaving her alone but not defeated. This little sanctuary was her reward for surviving it all. Life had settled into a pleasant routine. Work at the diner 4 days a week, tend to her garden, chat with the older couple next door who sometimes brought her homemade bread, and once a month treat herself to dinner at the Chinese restaurant downtown. It wasn't exciting by most standards, but to Sunny, it was perfect. Peace was worth more than excitement after everything she'd been through. That peace began to show tiny cracks the day a moving truck pulled up to the house on the other side of her backyard fence. The home had been empty for months after the previous owners, a quiet retired couple, had moved to Arizona to be closer to their grandchildren. Sunny watched from her kitchen window as expensive furniture was carried inside and a shiny SUV was parked in the driveway. "Hope they're nice," she muttered to herself, remembering how the previous neighbors had respected the invisible boundaries that make community living work. For the first few weeks, everything seemed fine. Sunny caught glimpses of a woman about her age with perfectly highlighted hair and designer exercise clothes, but they hadn't formally met. She seemed busy, always rushing in and out, phone pressed to her ear. Sunny meant to take over a welcome gift, maybe some muffins or a small plant, but somehow never found the right moment between her shifts at work. Then one morning, something felt off in her backyard. The tomato plant she'd carefully staked the evening before was leaning sideways, as if someone had bumped into it. A path of slightly flattened grass cut diagonally across her lawn. Thinking it might be neighborhood kids taking a shortcut, Sunny decided to check a bird bath, which sometimes attracted mischievous youngsters. It was intact, but beside it was something strange. A fancy water bottle with a designer logo, definitely not hers. The next day, Sunny woke earlier than usual. As she stepped onto her back porch, coffee in hand, she froze. There, walking briskly across her lawn with a small, fluffy dog trotting behind her, was her new neighbor. The woman didn't even pause or look around. She simply marched through Sunny's garden as if it were a public pathway, her expensive sneakers leaving imprints in the soft soil beside the vegetable beds. For a moment, Sunny just stared, cup halfway to her lips, too surprised to speak. The neighbor reached the back fence, lifted her dog over a low section, climbed over herself with practiced ease, and disappeared toward the park beyond without a backward glance. "Well," Sunny whispered to herself, setting down her coffee cup with a slightly trembling hand. "That's different." The peace of her morning ritual was broken, and with it, the first real ripple spread across the calm waters of her carefully constructed life. For 3 more mornings, Sunny watched from her kitchen window as the neighbor cut through her yard. Each time, the fancy woman walked with purpose, head high, as if she owned every inch of ground beneath her expensive sneakers. The little fluffy dog followed, occasionally stopping to dig at Sunny's flower beds or lift its leg on her tomato plants. After the 4th morning, Sunny decided it was time to say something. She wasn't one for confrontation. Working in customer service had taught her that honey works better than vinegar, but this was her home, her small piece of paradise that she'd worked so hard for. That afternoon, she spotted the neighbor returning from the park, once again using Sunny's yard as a shortcut. Sunny stepped onto her back porch and waved. "Hi there. I don't think we've officially met." "I'm your neighbor," she called out with a friendly smile. The woman paused, looking slightly annoyed at being interrupted. "Oh, hello," she replied, not offering her name. "I noticed you've been cutting through my yard to get to the park," Sunny said, keeping her tone light. "I'd really appreciate it if you could use the sidewalk instead. My garden's pretty delicate." The neighbor's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose slightly. "It's just a shortcut," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "It saves me 5 minutes each way. I'm sure you don't mind." She glanced at her diamond-studded watch. "I'm Bev, by the way." Before Sunny could respond, Bev clicked her tongue at her dog and continued walking across the yard. "Come on, precious," she called, and the dog yapped once before following. Sunny stood on her porch, mouth slightly open. Had that really just happened? Had this woman, Bev, just dismissed her completely? The next day, Sunny left a note attached to a small stake at the edge of her property where Bev usually entered. "Private property. Please use sidewalk," it read simply. She even added a smiley face to keep it friendly. When she came home from her diner shift that evening, the sign was gone. In its place was a perfect shoe print pressed into her marigolds. That weekend, Sunny was up early weeding her vegetable patch when she heard voices. Peeking around her shed, she was shocked to see not just Bev crossing her yard, but 2 other women as well, all dressed in matching workout clothes, carrying water bottles with some kind of slogan printed on them. "And this is the shortcut I was telling you about," Bev was saying loudly. "Saves so much time." "Isn't this someone's yard?" one of the women asked, looking uncertain. "Oh, it's fine," Bev replied with a laugh. "It's just the diner lady. She works all day anyway, barely uses this space. Besides, in our neighborhood association meeting, we talked about community access." Sunny felt her cheeks flush hot. Community access? This was her private property, and just the diner lady? Those words stung more than they should have. As they continued walking, one of the women's heels crushed a young pepper plant Sunny had been nurturing. None of them noticed. That night, Sunny couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, trying to decide what to do. She wasn't rich or powerful. She didn't belong to the neighborhood association. She worked during their meeting times. She didn't have money for a fancy fence. All she had was this small home and the yard that gave her peace. The next morning, she found 2 cigarette butts near her patio chair and a tennis ball she'd never seen before in her tomato plants. On her garden bench was a half-empty smoothie cup with a lipstick stain the exact shade Bev had been wearing. Sunny picked up the cup, her hand trembling slightly. She wasn't an angry person by nature. Patient, that's what everyone said about her. 20 years in customer service had taught her to smile through just about anything. But everyone has their breaking point. And Sunny was getting dangerously close to hers. A week passed, and things only got worse. Sunny tried to be reasonable. She put up another sign, bigger this time. Private property. Delies a recipe my garden. She even added thank you at the bottom with a little flower drawing. The next day, she found the sign tossed in her bird bath. That evening after her shift, Sunny's elderly neighbor, Mr. Chen, called over the fence as she was checking her damaged plants. "Having trouble with the new neighbor?" he asked, his kind eyes crinkling with concern. Sunny sighed. "Is it that obvious? Saw her walking through here yesterday with that little dog. The dog was digging up your flowers." He shook his head. "Not right, treating someone's property that way." "I've tried talking to her," Sunny said, pulling a weed with more force than necessary. "She just doesn't seem to hear me." Mr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Some people are like that. They only hear when it costs them something." With that cryptic comment, he waved and headed back inside. The next morning was Sunny's day off. She was looking forward to peaceful gardening when she heard the familiar yapping of Bev's dog. Peering out her kitchen window, she saw something that made her blood boil. Bev was standing in Sunny's garden, picking tomatoes, actually harvesting vegetables that Sunny had planted, watered, and tended for months. Without thinking, Sunny rushed outside. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" Bev looked up, not even startled. "Oh, good morning. Your tomatoes looked right. I just needed a few for my salad." She held up 3 plump tomatoes as if showing off a prize. "Those are my tomatoes," Sunny said, trying to keep her voice steady. "From my garden, that you're standing in without permission." Again. Bev rolled her eyes. "Don't be so uptight. Neighbors share things." We're not sharing, Sunny said, her voice rising despite her efforts to stay calm. You're taking, without asking, and you keep walking through my yard even though I've asked you not to. It's just a yard, Bev said with a shrug. And honestly, you should be happy someone's enjoying these tomatoes. You're always working anyway. She dropped the tomatoes into her designer bag. Besides, I mentioned your shortcut at the neighborhood association meeting, and no one seemed to think it was a big deal. You talked about my yard at a meeting? Sunny asked, incredulous. Well, yes, I'm the activities coordinator. I was thinking this could be a community garden space. Your yard is perfect. It connects to the park path. Bev gestured vaguely. We're always looking for ways to improve neighborhood connectivity. Sunny stared at her, speechless. This woman was actually planning to turn her private property into some kind of public walkway. Anyway, Bev continued, checking her watch. I've got Pilates in 20 minutes. Thanks for the tomatoes. With that, she whistled for her dog and strolled across Sunny's yard toward the back fence. Sunny stood frozen, watching them go. When they were out of sight, she sat heavily on her garden bench, hands trembling. That afternoon, Sunny drove to the hardware store. The clerk, a heavy-set man with a friendly smile, asked what she was looking for. Security cameras, Sunny said firmly. And information about fencing. The man nodded. Having trouble with trespassers? You could say that, Sunny replied, her jaw set with determination. Just one, really, but she's enough. 2 days later, Sunny had installed an inexpensive security camera aimed at her backyard. It connected to an app on her phone, technology that was new to her, but that the kind clerk had patiently explained. It didn't take long to get results. The very first morning, her phone buzzed with an alert. There was Bev stepping into the yard with her dog, helping herself to a handful of herbs from Sunny's garden, then continuing on her way as if she owned the place. Sunny stared at the video, a strange calm settling over her. Enough was enough. Mr. Chen was right. Some people only listen when it costs them something. And Sunny was finally ready to make Bev pay attention. Over the next few days, Sunny collected video after video of Bev crossing her yard, sometimes alone, sometimes with friends, and always acting as if she had every right to be there. The camera caught Bev's dog digging up newly planted flowers. It recorded Bev picking herbs and vegetables without permission. Once, it even showed Bev giving a full garden tour to 3 women, pointing at Sunny's plants as if showing off her own handiwork. And these tomatoes are just delicious, Bev was saying, loud enough for the camera's microphone to pick up. I've been using them in my famous bruschetta recipe. Sunny watched the video during her lunch break at the diner, nearly choking on her sandwich. Her famous recipe? Using stolen tomatoes. You okay there? Asked Mia, the young waitress who worked the counter. You look like you're about to explode. Sunny showed her the video, and Mia's eyes widened. That's your neighbor? In your garden? Taking your stuff. Happens almost every day, Sunny said, putting her phone away. Been going on for weeks now. Why don't you call the cops? Mia asked. Sunny shrugged. For what? They've got real problems to deal with. Besides, she's connected, always talking about her position in the neighborhood association. People like me don't win against people like her. People like you. Mia raised an eyebrow. You know, regular folks, not fancy. Mia crossed her arms. My aunt's a lawyer, and she says trespassing is trespassing, fancy or not. You've got it on video. You've asked her to stop. What more do you need? Sunny thought about this as she finished her shift. Maybe Mia was right. Maybe she had been too quick to assume she couldn't fight back. That evening, as Sunny pulled into her driveway, she noticed unusual activity in her backyard. Music was playing. People were talking and laughing. For a moment, she wondered if she'd somehow forgotten her own party. She walked around to the back and froze in disbelief. There, on her patio, was Bev with 6 other women. They had moved Sunny's patio furniture to create a circle. They were drinking wine from Sunny's glasses she'd left drying on her porch table. One woman was cutting flowers from Sunny's garden and arranging them in Sunny's favorite vase. What is going on here? Sunny asked, her voice oddly calm despite the rage building inside her. The group looked up, momentarily startled. Then Bev smiled brightly. Oh, there you are. I was telling the book club about this charming little spot. Hope you don't mind, we were just finishing up. Actually, I do mind, Sunny said. This is my private property. You need to leave. Now. One of the women looked uncomfortable, gathering her things. But Bev just laughed. Don't be silly. We're almost done. Besides, spaces like this should be shared. That's what community is all about. Community is about respect, Sunny said, her voice shaking slightly. And you've shown none for me or my property. Please leave. Bev rolled her eyes at the other women. She gets like this. Very territorial. She stood up slowly. Fine, we'll go. Ladies, let's move to my place. As they gathered their wine and books, one woman accidentally knocked over a small clay pot. It fell and shattered on the patio of stones. Inside had been a tiny cactus, a gift from Sunny's late husband on their last anniversary. Oops, the woman said, not bothering to clean up the mess. Sorry about that. Sunny stared at the broken pot, something shifting inside her. The women filed past her, a few muttering thanks for hosting, as if she'd had any choice in the matter. Bev was the last to leave. You know, Bev said, pausing beside Sunny, you'd have more friends if you weren't so rigid about your things. It's just a yard after all. After they left, Sunny knelt by the broken pot, carefully gathering the pieces. The little cactus had survived, and she gently placed it in another container. That night, Sunny couldn't sleep. She kept seeing the broken pot, hearing Bev's dismissive voice. It's just a yard. No, it wasn't just a yard. It was her yard. Her home. Her life. And she was done letting Bev walk all over it. The next morning, Sunny called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Her boss didn't even question it. That's how reliable she'd always been. Instead of serving breakfast specials, she sat at her kitchen table with a notepad, a cup of coffee, and a determined expression. Enough is enough, she muttered, writing down her plan. First, she called the non-emergency police line. The officer who answered sounded bored until Sunny mentioned she had weeks of video evidence. You've asked her to stop, the officer asked. Multiple times, Sunny confirmed. I've put up signs. I've spoken to her directly. She removes the signs and ignores me. And now she's taking your property, the vegetables. Yes, and using my patio furniture, my glasses, even cutting my flowers. Last night she hosted a party in my backyard while I was at work. The officer was silent for a moment. Ma'am, that's not just trespassing anymore. That's theft and destruction of property. I can send someone over today to take a report. 2 hours later, Officer Rivera sat at Sunny's kitchen table, watching the videos on her phone. She was a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. You've got a solid case here, she said, making notes. Clear evidence of repeated trespassing after being told to stop, taking of property, damage to your garden. She looked up at Sunny. Why did you wait so long to report this? Sunny stared into her coffee cup. Honestly, I didn't think anyone would care. She's the type who always gets her way. She gestured vaguely at herself, at her simple home. Officer Rivera's eyes softened slightly. The law doesn't care about designer clothes or fancy titles, Ms. Chen. It cares about property rights, and yours are being violated. She handed Sunny a card. I'm filing this report. If she comes back, call this number immediately. After the officer left, Sunny moved to step 2 of her plan. She called the number on a business card Mr. Chen had given her weeks ago, his nephew, a law student. I can draft a cease and desist letter, he told her after hearing her story. No charge. Anyone who messes with uncle's neighbors messes with family. By afternoon, Sunny was on step 3. She drove to the garden center on the edge of town, determined to protect what was hers. While examining fence options, she overheard a familiar voice 1 aisle over. Well, she's just impossible, Bev was saying loudly. Acting like her yard is private property or something. It is private property, isn't it? Asked another woman. Technically, I suppose, Bev replied with a laugh. But she's so dramatic about it. Yesterday she practically threw a fit when our book club used her patio. As if she was even using it. She works all the time. Sunny froze, her hand gripping a fence post so tightly her knuckles turned white. I've been thinking, Bev continued, oblivious to Sunny's presence, the neighborhood association should discuss eminent domain. That yard would make a perfect community garden space, and it's not like she appreciates it properly. Can the association even do that? The other woman asked. Probably not, Bev admitted. But we can make things difficult enough that she might consider selling. Property values in this area are rising. She'd make a profit. Sunny stepped around the corner, face burning. So that's your plan? Force me out of my home? Bev turned, startled, then quickly composed herself. Oh, we were just talking about. I heard exactly what you were talking about, Sunny said, her voice deadly quiet. Making things difficult for me. Trying to take my property. She stepped closer. Let me be perfectly clear. I will never sell my home. Not to you. Not to your association. Not to anyone. Bev's friend looked mortified, backing away slightly. Bev just sighed dramatically. You're making such a mountain out of a molehill. It's just a... If you say just a yard one more time, Sunny interrupted. I swear I will lose what little patience I have left. It's my yard, my home, my life. She straightened her shoulders, and you're about to find out exactly how serious I am about protecting it. Bev blinked, clearly not used to being challenged. Are you threatening me? Sunny smiled, a calm settling over her. No, Bev. I'm promising you. This ends now. The next morning, Sunny woke up before dawn, a woman on a mission. By the time the sun rose, she had already set up her third security camera. This one pointed directly at the spot where Bev always crossed into her yard. She checked her phone one last time to make sure all 3 cameras were working, then headed inside to make coffee. As she sipped from her favorite mug, a knock sounded at her front door. It was Mr. Chen, holding a large cardboard box. Morning, neighbor, he said with a smile. My nephew dropped this off for you, said it's important. Inside the box were 20 copies of the cease and desist letter, each in its own envelope with legal document stamped across the front in red. On top was a note from Mr. Chen's nephew. One for her, extras for witnesses and neighbors. Paper trail is everything. Sunny called Mia from the diner. Remember when you said I should stand up for myself? Finally doing it, Maya asked. Could use some help, Sunny admitted, and maybe a witness. An hour later, Mia arrived with her boyfriend, a tall, quiet guy who worked construction. He carried fence posts and a post hole digger. Thought you might need these, he said simply. By noon, they had made progress. Simple but sturdy fence posts now marked Sunny's property line with bright yellow no TRESPASSANG signs attached. The legal letter was in an envelope taped to Bev's side of the fence, impossible to miss. Mia's boyfriend had helped Sunny install a simple gate with a lock where her yard met the back alley, the spot Bev always used as an entrance. Think it'll work? Maya asked as they took a break for lemonade. If it doesn't, we move to step 2, Sunny said, patting the stack of remaining letters. They didn't have to wait long. Around 2 o'clock, Sunny's phone buzzed with an alert. On the screen, she watched Bev approach the newly installed gate, her fluffy dog trotting beside her. Bev looked confused, then annoyed. She tugged at the gate, which remained firmly locked. Let's go, Sunny said, grabbing the envelope and her phone. They walked around the block to where Bev stood, still yanking at the gate. When she saw them approaching, she crossed her arms. What is all this? She demanded, pointing at the fence posts. Property markers, Sunny said calmly, showing the legal boundaries of my yard. And this, she held up her phone, which was still recording, is me documenting your attempt to enter my property after being repeatedly told not to. Bev's face reddened. This is ridiculous. I've been using this path for months. Without permission, Sunny pointed out, which makes it trespassing. She handed Bev the envelope. This is a formal cease and desist letter. It outlines all the instances of trespassing, theft, and property damage that I've documented. There's also a bill for the vegetables and flowers you've taken, the damage to my garden, and the broken pottery from your book club. Bev stared at the envelope as if it might bite her. You can't be serious. Dead serious, Sunny replied. If you or your dog set foot on my property again, I'll file charges. I've already made a police report. Officer Rivera's card is inside if you'd like to verify. This is how you treat neighbors? Bev sputtered. I was just being friendly, using your yard. No, Sunny corrected her. Friendly would have been asking permission. Friendly would have been respecting me when I said no. What you did was entitled and disrespectful. I'll report this to the neighborhood association, Bev threatened, her voice rising. Feel free, Sonny said with a shrug. I've sent them copies of all the evidence too, including the video where you discussed trying to force me out of my home. She smiled slightly. I wonder how they'll feel about having an activities coordinator who advocates for illegal property seizure. Bev's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Finally, she turned and stormed off, the unopened envelope clutched in her hand, her little dog scrambling to keep up. Maya let out a low whistle. Wow, that felt good just to watch. Sonny nodded, a weight lifting from her shoulders. It felt even better to do it. 3 days passed without a single notification from Sonny's security cameras. No Bev, no dog, no trespassing. Sonny almost couldn't believe it. After months of invasions, her yard was finally her own again. She celebrated by spending Sunday morning replanting the areas that had been trampled, humming softly as she worked. Mr. Chen waved from over the fence. Peaceful again, yes? Sonny smiled. Yes, finally. Don't think it's over yet, he warned gently. People like that don't give up so easily. He was right. That evening, Sonny's doorbell rang. When she opened it, she found a stern-looking man in an expensive suit. Ms. Sonny Chen, he asked, not quite making eye contact. I'm Gregory Walsh, president of the Maple Street Neighborhood Association. We need to discuss your recent actions. Sonny took a deep breath. Of course. Would you like to come in? In her living room, Mr. Walsh cleared his throat awkwardly. We've received some concerning reports about barriers you've erected on your property, and there seems to be some misunderstanding with one of our board members. You mean Bev, Sonny said calmly. And there's no misunderstanding. I have video evidence of her repeatedly trespassing on my property after being asked to stop. I have footage of her stealing my vegetables, damaging my garden, and hosting gatherings on my patio without permission. Mr. Walsh's expression changed slightly. Mrs. Beverly mentioned a neighborly arrangement. There was no arrangement, Sonny interrupted, reaching for her phone. Would you like to see the videos? Including the one where she discusses trying to force me out of my home so the association can use my yard. His eyes widened. Force you out? Her exact words were about making things difficult enough that she might consider selling. Is that standard practice for your association, Mr. Walsh? The color drained from his face. Absolutely not. That would be unethical and potentially illegal. He shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps I should see these videos. For the next 20 minutes, Sonny played clip after clip. Mr. Walsh's expression grew increasingly troubled. I had no idea, he said finally. Mrs. Beverly presented a very different picture to the board. I'm not surprised, Sonny replied. She seems to think rules don't apply to her. Rest assured they do, Mr. Walsh said firmly. The association would never condone this behavior. He stood up. Thank you for showing me this evidence. I'll be addressing this with the board immediately. 2 days later, Sonny received a hand-delivered letter from the neighborhood association. It contained a formal apology for Bev's actions, confirmation that she had been removed from her position as activities coordinator, and an invitation for Sonny to attend their next meeting. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. The next morning, as Sonny left for her shift at the diner, she found a small pot of flowers on her porch with a note. So sorry about everything. Neighborhood Book Club. That afternoon, 3 different neighbors stopped by to introduce themselves properly, each apologizing for not stepping in sooner. One older woman confessed, "We all just believed what Bev told us, that you'd given permission. I feel terrible now." A week passed, then 2. Sonny's garden flourished in the peace. She added wind chimes and bird feeders, enjoying her sanctuary once again. Then came the moving truck. Sonny was watering her newly planted flowers when she noticed it parked in front of Bev's house. Bev emerged from her front door carrying a designer suitcase, her fluffy dog tucked under her arm. Their eyes met across the street. For a moment, Sonny thought Bev might come over to apologize, perhaps. Instead, Bev quickly looked away and hurried to her car. Mr. Chen appeared at the fence, watching the movers load furniture. Leaving so soon? Looks that way, Sonny replied. Heard she's telling everyone the neighborhood became too unfriendly, he said with a small smile. Funny how some people never learn. Sunny nodded, turning back to her garden. Some people don't, but I did. What did you learn? He asked. Sunny thought for a moment, looking around at her peaceful yard, her small piece of heaven that she'd fought for and won. That standing up for yourself isn't selfish, she said finally, and that no matter who you are or how much money you have, nobody has the right to take what isn't theirs. The wind chimes tinkled softly in the breeze as she returned to tending her tomatoes, finally able to enjoy the fruits of her labor in peace.